welcome to welcome to the Barnburner TV network on ZingoTV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Barnburner and ZingoTV apps in the respective iOS and Android app stores. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment, and remember both apps are free. ZingoTV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan Fernandez, and welcome to another edition of Bundesliga Back in the Net. We are joined by the man himself, Mr. Thivian V. Thivian, how you doing, man?
I've been doing okay. I mean, I haven't been having finals and everything around. So you might see me in some shows now. You might see me not in some shows, but don't rest assured, once all these finals are done and everything, I'll be back consistently. Oh,
Back.
we'll see. I don't know about next semester. So
Yeah, Thivians. So obviously this is the Bundesliga show. So like before, we everyone knows that we were doing predictions and score, and I just want to go over the last week's score. So I ended up winning the week, but that still puts Thivian in the lead. His score from the previous week. Right now I'm at 16 and Thivian is at 18. Vivian, were there any scores that kind of stood out to you this weekend out of the games that occurred? Obviously, you had the big game with Bayern versus Leipzig. That was a 3-3 draw for both teams. Were you surprised by that, or?
honestly, I thought Bayern Munich was gonna you know, score 2 goals. Once I saw the 3-3, I'm like, all I need them to do is Bayern to score 5-3. That is it. So I was very disappointed. I could have got that match score right.
Yeah, so that was a pretty open game, I'd say. No, the defense both didn't play very well, but both teams were firing. To me, the biggest score or biggest surprise of the weekend was the Dortmund Frankfurt game. That ended in a 1-1 draw. So that's just going to show again that the Dortmund is struggling without Erling Haaland to score goals. What do you think is a problem with them right now? Because we saw them in the Champions League as well. They're really struggling right now. And it's kind of surprising because they do have a very good players, but now for some reason losing one player, how detrimental do you think that is to that team?
I think it's just going to take time to adjust and everything, to be quite honest. I mean, they did win against Zenit. I mean, it was pretty much a nothing game. They were already qualified regardless. But yeah, it's going to take time for them, right? So when you don't have those big hitters that can score goals right away, then you may have to compromise a little bit. And it's going to be a question about how their defense uh, takes in and everything, right? Because I know they're a really heavily regarding goal scoring team as well, but football's not played on one side; it's also played on the other end as well. So
Yeah. Um, just want to ask you about Dortmund's defense though. Like you've seen, like obviously they have young center backs like Akanji and Zagadou, but you see them in the transfer market trying to, I guess, kind of they like to bring in experienced players. Signing Thomas Meunier this year, they have Mats Hummels, who they brought him back from Bayern. Um, what's it? Piszczek is still part of their lineup. Nico Schultz. These are all pretty older kind of players. Do you think that's maybe affecting their defense as well, like or their role in the team? Like you have so many of these, I'd say, experienced players in your defense, but then up front there really isn't anyone other than Marco Royce, who has had a pretty long career and is experienced. Do you think that's what they're lacking up front, and someone to kind of be vocal on the pitch and kind of relay to the other attackers? Some person they can bring off the bench, some kind of veteran.
a veteran striker. I'm not too sure about that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, because right now they have Gio Reyna, they have Jude Bellingham, Jadon Sancho,
Mhm.
Thorgan Hazard is pretty young as well. Do you think
Yeah.
it's important for a team to maybe have like an older player in the side? Because we see Bayern Munich, like they obviously have Thomas Muller and Lewandowski still around. And last season they brought Perisic on loan, another pretty experienced players to kind of work alongside your Kingsley Coman and your Serge Gnabry and even your Alfonso Davies. Do you think it's important to have that kind of depth in your squad?
I think so too, but I think it's also dependent. It's obviously, quite important to have like that experience as well. But you also want people that are quite hungry and want to go forward in their careers and everything, right? So some people may say like, okay, yes, it's always good to have like a big hitter, but you want someone that's also hungry, right?
Yeah.
So I think you need like if you get that kind of player in your ranks and everything, then I think that's a good investment for any team.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, forget about next week. We're now going to be moving on to this weekend's games. Keep in mind the scores are at 16-18. So, one correct result can literally change everything for both of us right now. First
Mhm.
game of the weekend, Wolfsburg against Frankfurt. Vivian, what's your prediction?
So Wolfsburg is at home, Eintracht away. I can only see this as being a Wolfsburg win. I'm gonna say 3-1.
3-1 to Wolfsburg. I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolfsburg. Dortmund versus Stuttgart. Dortmund are back at home. Do you think they're going to start scoring again, or do you think they're going to struggle?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-1 win.
2-1 win. I don't know. Dortmund, to me, they didn't look that secure against Zenit midweek, so I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Leipzig against Bremen.
Leipzig against Werder Bremen. I think to be quite honest, it's probably gonna be a Leipzig win. It's not gonna be like Bayern Munich. They're gonna be back hungry. And I think it's gonna be a 3-1 win to Leipzig.
3-1 win. Vivian, what did you make of Leipzig's midweek performance against Man United? Because I feel in that first half they came out firing, but in the second half they kind of let Man United take a bit more control. And you saw Man United did end up scoring 2 goals, and they actually almost came close to scoring a third, which would have equalized the game. What did you make of their performance midweek?
Now, there were questions about the goals as well. Like the first goal, it was potentially not actually a foul because it was shoulder to shoulder contact. They gave it as a penalty. You move, but then also there was a quick penalty. Sorry, not penalty. Quick foul shout within the corner with Pogba, tend to fouling the players and everything.
Yeah.
However, Pogba was given, which was surprising as well because Galachi actually was the one that tipped the ball in. So, but I mean, I guess it was Pogba's goal and everything. So yeah, Man United, of course, are going to be like scouring, in the second half and everything. It's only up to Leipzig to really take control and like yes, they're gonna obviously allow them to come forward because again, you don't want to like get out pressed and then create space from the back, right? So it was very important that Leipzig just sat back and everything until Man United attack, and then just use that as an advantage to make attacks going forward, right? I think they did a brilliant job regardless. And for a club that's only been in the Bundesliga for a short amount of time, let alone being a club itself for a short amount of time, to get to the Champions League right away is an achievement. But I know a lot of German fans don't appreciate it like Leipzig as a club. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna peg this down also for a Leipzig win, but I'm gonna say 3-2 to Leipzig. Next game, Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Hertha Berlin. Obviously, Mönchengladbach, they did perform pretty well in the early stages of the Champions League, but both of us watched that game together yesterday on Soccer World, and their performance was pretty subpar. Is not even the word. They just were a shell of the actual selves coming up against Real Madrid, and they very close. They almost got knocked out of the Champions League. What did you make of their performance yesterday?
I think it's just down to it just shows the experience of a proven European giant like Real Madrid, who's been constantly in the Champions League, and then a team that's starting to come back to the Champions League. You know, these teams are the ones that are like they don't know what they're going to expect and everything, and they kind of have that little fear factor in them, right?
Mhm.
When coming into the Champions League, you'll see Lazio as well, where they did well in the beginning, but then they struggled kind of at the end. They almost themselves got knocked out as well, but luckily they were able to make a draw for the last game. So just like Mönchengladbach, it's just um, what about their team? It's just they are full of young people as well, right? And I think it's just for them is to get experience and try their best to come as close as they can in the Champions League, right?
Mhm.
And I think for Mönchengladbach right now, right, whatever whoever they get anyways, to go into that game without fear.
Yeah.
That's very important.
How far do you see them going though? Because like you said before, they are a pretty young team and nobody's expecting them to win. But realistically, how far do you think they can make it?
Depending on the right opponents, they can. I think maybe. I don't think they're gonna make it past the round of 16. But if they do get like a certain opponent, they could make it to the quarterfinals. That's all I'm like maximum. But like most likely they're gonna get knocked out of the round of 16. I'm sorry, all
Yeah.
the Mönchengladbach fans, but
Yeah. So what's your score prediction? Mönchengladbach versus Hertha Berlin.
they want to prove themselves that they are like punching back and everything, right? They're obviously going to be happy, so I think it's going to be a comfortable 3-0 win
3-0 win. Wow.
to Mönchengladbach.
To Mönchengladbach. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Mönchengladbach. Freiburg versus Arminia Bielefeld. Arminia Bielefeld surprised everyone by winning their last game against Mainz with a 2-1 victory. So do you think this is a turn of form for the newly promoted side?
What I think about it, it's just the fact that I said 2-1. I said it in the opposite direction. Uh,
Yeah.
but you know what though? I'm gonna go by trends. What I've seen is that when they're home, they win 2-1, and when they're away in recent history, they lose 2-1. Freiburg is right now 14th in the table. Armenia is 16th. Who wants it more? Probably Freiburg. I'm going to go with, and I think it is going to be 2-1, but who? Freiburg. I'll give 2-1 to Freiburg.
2-1 to Freiburg. I think I'm going to go with the exact same result.
Wow,
I don't,
okay.
I don't see Armenia winning away against Freiburg, who do need a result also after having a pretty disappointing result against Hoffenheim. Next game, Mainz versus Köln. Obviously, we were talking about it before. Mainz lost to Arminia Bielefeld. Are now coming back, taking on Cologne at home. What do you make of that game?
It has draw written all over it. I'm going to say 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw, just to keep things entertaining. Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich.
Union Berlin, actually, I've seen some of their games. They're actually quite defensively sound, and they go up if they need to and everything. And right now in the Bundesliga, they're actually doing okay, really good actually. I think Bayern Munic's gonna win, but I think it's gonna be not like a crazy score or anything. I think it's gonna be 2-0 to Bayern.
2-0 to Bayern. You know what I think though is Bayern, like obviously in the Champions League yesterday against Moscow, they didn't play their strongest 11, but I still feel like something's not going right at Bayern right now. Like obviously we have Davies came back, but for the past few weeks their defense has really struggled. You have Nicholas Sula who played yesterday. You have Musiala who played yesterday. Ismail Assar was playing yesterday as well. So, like, the real question is, what lineup do you think Bayern's going to go with in this game, especially? I
Are you gonna
don't.
be daring? Are you gonna say a Union Berlin win then?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with for a 2-2 draw.
Ooh.
That's what I'm gonna go for. Next game, Augsburg versus Schalke. Schalke still losing. You predicted last week that they would win over Bayer Leverkusen, but what ended up happening is they lost 3-1 to Leverkusen.
You
What
know
do
what
you
I would say though? If I did get that right, I would have been tied with points, I would believe. If I just said, okay, yeah, Schalke, I'm sorry, I've given up on you. That love story between you and I are dead now. I'm finally gonna say, Augsburg, do your thing. I think it's gonna be. What was the last score again? The last score was 3-0. You know what? I'm gonna go 3-1 to Augsburg.
3-1 to Augsburg.
Yes.
I'm gonna go 2-1 to Augsburg. And last game of the week, Leverkusen versus Hoffenheim.
And that's the thing, we missed Augsburg and Hoffenheim's game. So
Yeah,
I don't know what to say about this. I don't know what to base it off. Well, I can base it off the last result, but I don't know. I don't know. 2-1 to Leverkusen.
you think so? Yeah, Leverkusen are playing pretty well. They don't seem to be worried about losing Kai Havertz. They can still find the back of the net, they've shown. And surprisingly, Kai Havertz has endured a pretty slow start to his Chelsea career. Do you find, let's talk about the Bundesliga players and those transfers made. Like, obviously, Timo Werner joined, Chelsea, Kai Havertz joined. Do you think, what do you make to, what do you want to say about those signings? Do you think they're doing well? Do you think they're doing poorly?
Um, to be fair, Kai Havertz, with the price that was put onto him was astronomical and everything. It's looked to be like a long term like project with them, right? So I wouldn't rush it too quickly and say like, okay, he's not there. Then we would say like João Felix is like probably the worst signing that Atletico Madrid made, right? So
Mhm.
I wouldn't call it out too quickly. I think it's just a slow start. But fair play to Leverkusen, who are just keep rolling, keep pushing on.
Keep pushing on. Yeah, that's true. So you brought up a point earlier in the show talking about Mönchengladbach and talking about how teams like that should really have nothing to fear. And I want to bring up Arminia Bielefeld. They're a newly promoted side this year, and quite similarly to Leeds United of the Premier League, who were promoted this year. They didn't show in the first game that they were afraid of anyone taking on Liverpool, and all, they could have really won that game at the end of the day. What do you think it is like? How do you instill that mindset in your team? Like, obviously for Leeds United, Marco Bielsa had to tell his team like, I know you're going up against the champions, but like, how do you instill that mentality as a coach? Like, don't be afraid of them. Don't just go out and play your game.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of sessions, and it's a psychological game at the end of it. So whatever he's doing psychologically to them, making them give that belief and everything, yeah, for sure. So I think, yeah, it really is up to the manager and everything. And this just shows a lot that the manager really could make a difference, right? It could be that spark to a great side. So
Yeah. Do you think like Armenia? Obviously, like in the Bundesliga, it's not really like the Premier League where there's too many upsets or there's too many surprises. With Armenia and maybe the rest of the Bundesliga, how difficult is it to maybe come up against a team like Bayern or a team like Dortmund who do have these resources and are guaranteed a Champions League spot pretty much every year?
well, I mean, like I said, you got to be what is it? You mean like small teams to build up?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Like also
Uh,
when you're going up against these teams, like there's a there's a difference in quality. Armenia and Bielefeld don't have a player like Robert Lewandowski who can just score a goal or make a goal out of nothing. So
mhm.
what do you in terms of that, like how do you go about it now when you're making your signings or you're bringing in more talent? How do you put that message out there that we're slowly building something and you're trying to, I guess for these smaller teams they really have to analyze tactics and they really need to, they can't just rely on their players to make come up with big moments. They really need to enforce their style of play and their tactics. How difficult is that, do you think?
Well, you need to show them like, look, this is how we're gonna play you, and depending on the minutes of the games and everything. That's why a lot of the small teams are also going for like young people who wants to push on and go forward, right?
Hmm.
That's a good model. I mean, some others they take like experienced players who are past and everything, and then they push that on. So it really depends as well, right? You're not going to get everybody that's perfect. However, if you can promise someone that, look, we have the perfect system for you. We want to push forward and everything. This is how we're going to do it and everything. You give an idea of it, then players will come in and they're interested, right? So we do see like certain teams that do have that special something like Marcel Bielsa, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what he's all about and everything, what he can do for you as a player, right? And that's why a lot of people follow his ways and everything. So I think it's very important for any like small team to do so.
Yeah, I think so. Like, obviously, like as a smaller team, it's quite intimidating to come up against a Bayern or like even Leeds against Liverpool. But if you can really like spend some time to understand where their weaknesses are, I feel like those teams can really exploit them. Obviously, we saw with Leeds, we knew that Liverpool has this pretty high press and I forget what it's called. Is it Gegen press
Yeah.
or something like that? Yeah, where Leeds United they ended up using Jack Harrison and Luke Ayling was up there as well, Helder Costa, all these fast wingers, and they found a weakness in that Liverpool team. Same thing with Armenia and even like Union Berlin now have started to find weaknesses in these certain teams. Um, so Thibian, very quickly, just before we finish up the show, I want to ask you: do you think there is a clear-cut winner right now in this Bundesliga table? Do you see anyone who you think like by the it's we're almost at Christmas and normally you can pretty much tell who in the Bundesliga especially. It's not like the Premier League where there's too many surprises, but you can do you think there's any out and out winner for you here?
I mean, this is probably Bayern's. What is it in terms of? Of course, they have injuries and everything, but in terms of points per game, it's very interesting. Bayern should actually be fourth, actually,
Hmm.
based on a points per game thing. I may change. I have to check it again, but it is very interesting. And they do say it's because of their attack that they are doing as well as they're doing now. So look, it may just be the case of Bayern just they have to sort themselves out again and come back on the top and whatnot. So I think it's still going to be Bayern again, which is sad to see. But I mean, they've been doing it for so long. They installed such a culture that just pushes the other teams away, right? But it is
Yeah.
close right now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so right now Bayern sit up top with 23 points. In second, Leverkusen are very close behind with 22 points. Then you have your Leipzig, Dortmund, Wolfsburg, and Union Berlin who fill out the rest of the top six. I forgot to ask you earlier though when I asked you about Mönchengladbach. How far do you think Dortmund and Bayern are going to go in the Champions League? Obviously, making it into the next round now. But Dortmund do seem to be struggling now, hitting a slump. Do you think that's going to affect them in their Champions League run?
I mean, what I would have to say is Bayern Munich are the favorites to do, and people can say that they may do the double again. They may do a repeat. Of course, a lot of like certain fans, like Real Madrid fans, don't want that. They want to keep the record of them having the back-to-back, Champions League,
Yeah.
wins and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, you can't overlook them. I think some good contenders are as follow Liverpool. Despite their injury problems, they've been looking all right. Um, I don't know. To be fair, there's actually not because like the thing is, we've seen the other teams before, and they've been hyped and everything. I wouldn't say Barcelona. I wouldn't even say Real Madrid, but Real Madrid is always like that team where they can do it in moments, right?
Mm.
So you got to see like who wants it. Of course, it really does change because you do have a break and everything, and then depending on what players you have for the beginning of the day, the actual like Champions League nights and whatnot, things can change, right? So you never know. So Dortmund is like a good team, but I don't think they're gonna be like
You don't think they're going to win it?
winners. No.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for time we have for today's show. Some very exciting Champions League fixtures are going to be coming up. So, if you want to watch the Bundesliga or want to see how those teams are doing, I definitely recommend checking out. And if you want to join the Soccer World streams for Champions League games. Anyways, Vivian, thank you so much for joining. Ladies and gentlemen, this show can be heard on the Barnburner Radio Network on all of its 122 platforms. Please check us out at barnburner.ca for all the sports news. Barnburner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and